Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sharing Alumni Advice Wednesdays with the Student Alumni Association. Tonight is our media and communications event. And to kick things off, we want to acknowledge that, a lot of you may be coming from different time zones. So we're thanking everyone for being here tonight. It means a lot to us. Additionally, so we'll move on to the next slide, and we want this event to be as interactive as possible. So feel free to use that raise hand feature in the bottom right corner. That's going to be really important. Additionally, if you didn't want to speak or raise your hand, feel free to type a question in the chat as well, and either me or Ryan will ask one of the panelists your question. But we'll move on to the next slide and start off with introductions. So hello, everyone. My name is Hamza. I am a senior here at UMass. I'm also the Alumni Relations Coordinator for the Student Alumni Association, and I'll turn it over to Ryan to introduce himself.
Thanks, Hamza. My name is Ryan Richards. I am a sophomore here at UMass. I am the Conferences and Awards Coordinator in SAA. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the panelists. Panelists, try and include your major from UMass, your current job, and a brief description of what your job entails on a day-to-day basis. Emily, why don't we start it off with you?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily. I was an English major when I was back at UMass. I graduated in 2013, as you can also see. IT minor, so I sort of teched it out there with some, coding classes and web design and stuff like that. So that was super fun. I work in tech, so I am a senior product manager. I work in product, which I'm happy to explain what that is. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But I started in technical writing. I've mostly worked in product since then, but at a bunch of different companies. And a lot of it has to do with communications and PR and everything like that. So I'm sure we'll get into it, but yeah, excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Veronica. I graduated in 2014 in the Communication and Journalism Department. I currently work for CNN right now. I'm a breaking news reporter covering all things politics. So it's a lot of writing, reporting, phone calls, in-person meetings. And I was formerly at ABC News for a few years right after graduation. And I currently live in DC. I'm just really looking forward to tonight's panel and sharing advice and hearing your questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kwabi Asante. I graduated from UMass in 2018. I was an economics major. And in 2019, I completed my master's in business and analytics in Eisenberg's accelerated program. I'm currently a project manager of production technology at NBC Universal. So that essentially is supporting all technology within 30 Rockefeller Center in New York City, where the Today Show, Saturday Night Live, Jimmy Fallon, Late Night with Seth Meyers, a ton of news properties are within there. And my job is essentially supporting both long-term and short-term plays to improve their control rooms and their studios. And I'm happy to explain that further if anyone has any other questions, but happy to be here as well. Go UMass.
All right, thank you so much, panelists. So now we're actually gonna go away from the presentation view, go on to gallery. Attendees, feel free to turn on your camera. This is the moment to get to know our alumni and share your experiences with them, ask them questions. I'm going to start off first with a question we have. How did your time so for each of our panelists, how did your time at UMass prepare you for the job you currently hold? And we'll pass it off. I think we'll start off in the same order. Emily, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So English major, when I started as that, I really wanted to do creative writing. And I like writing poetry, I like writing short stories. But very quickly I realized that I also really enjoyed just communicating and help translating. And so my advisor, Janine Solberg, who I think is still very much an active professor there, she told me, hey, what about PWTC, the Professional Writing and Technical Communication Program? And that was truly amazing. So I learned all about technical writing. I learned about, basically using my major to translate between technical and non-technical people, And I think that that's something that just the humanities majors and the communication majors in general does. There's a big need for that out there in any job at any company, whether it's, directly in communications, whether it's a news outlet or journalism, magazine or tech companies, wherever it might be. Being able to translate between two different people who might not be on the same page is huge. And so that I would say that that's the number one thing that my time at UMass taught me, was that there's a superpower there for the humanities and for the communications.
Cool, Veronica. So how did your time at UMass prepare you for the role you currently hold?
Yeah, sure. So I was super involved in student organizations. I don't know how many journalism majors we have, but I got involved with the Collegian, UVC TV, Amherst Wire. I even did a few stints at the radio station, but I just pretty much like tried to throw myself into all sorts of student organizations, and yeah, it was really helpful to do so, because then I had published work and clips I could show people who I was applying to. And yeah, I mean, obviously the classes are the fundamentals of what we do on a day-to-day basis. If you take, like ethics and journalism, you're gonna, like every day I meet something. I mean, I have an assignment almost every day that requires me to go back to the basics of my, journalism 101. So just getting the most out of classes was really beneficial to me. And yeah, and just trying to, try new things. People say college is for, the place to try new things, try new experiences. And that really holds up, because, you're going to be learning something new every day in journalism. And it really helps to be adaptable. And yeah, UMass was a great experience. And I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today.
Awesome, Kwabi. So how did your UMass experience contribute to the role you are currently today?
Yeah, it helped me in a couple of different ways. As an economics major, that's not really a media major at all, but it helped me take challenging courses, both quantitatively and qualitatively. And that helps me in my job today, because I'm able to problem solve the same way I used to when I was a student. Also, UMass is kind of like a melting pot of different people with different backgrounds, different ideas, different interests. So I was able to, sorry if you hear the street in the background, I was able to meet a lot of different people, a lot different from me. And that helps me in a large organization like NBC Universal, where you have a ton of different personalities and people with different backgrounds. I was also able to lean into things I enjoyed, whether it was through campus jobs, working with the athletic department or the Alumni Association, classes that I really wanted to take, or meeting people with shared interests that we could, hang out together and watch movies, TV shows. I was always really passionate about media, so it helped me in a couple different ways. But coursework, honestly, not so much the content of the work, but just being a student.
Awesome. I guess another question we have, and I guess we'll start off with Kwabi this time. What should students know about working within media or the communication space in general?
Yeah, I think media and communications is just so vast. I probably early on, I used to think media was just like a company like NBC Universal, but media communications can span in different, tech companies have maybe media departments or communications departments where you can use those skills there. Also within a media company like NBC Universal, you have different types of jobs. You have corporate functions, HR, finance, you have production roles, you have technology roles, we have product as well. So media and communications is just so vast. So if right now as a student, you're looking at it really honed in on one area, you can kind of open up your view of what media means.
Awesome, Veronica. What should students know about this space?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to piggyback off of what Kwame was saying, because I agree with him 100%. But yeah, it's so broad, and the thing is that there might be a job that's not even created right now for you when you graduate. It's changing rapidly, and for journalism specifically, there's all this worry that local newspapers are dying. There's a lot of growth, as I was saying before. Jobs have yet to be invented. for journalism. So I think that's out there still. There's hope to find a job. I think it can dissuade people from trying to join journalism, but yeah, if you persistence will get you places. I can't tell you how many times I've put in applications, done interviews, and it can be discouraging, but like if you just keep going and you network and you talk to people about getting into the field, just meeting people for coffee, yeah, you could, it's about connections sometimes, which can be frustrating. I think that's the thing I learned the most too about working in the journalism and the communication department. Sometimes it just comes down to who you know and who has prior experience with working for you that can put in a good word and gets your foot in the door.
Yeah, Emily, did you want to add on to that at all?
Yeah, Veronica hit the nail on the head, right? It's so much about connections and who you know. I just went through a big interviewing stint. I actually just finished up my last gig. I was working at a company called Indigo Agriculture. And, what's interesting, again, as Kwabi said, I am not in media and communications in like the strict, I don't work at media and communications companies, but every tech company I've worked for a few startups since I graduated, has a marketing department. And even, especially smaller startups, you are expected to be part of the brand, and your Twitter presence and your Instagram presence and all of that is very much a part of the company, and you're expected to promote things and represent the company when you go to events and join conversations. And it's very much about connections. It's very much about building that personal brand as well as working for your company. I'm going to a company next. I start in a couple weeks, taking some time off, which I recommend to everyone as you switch jobs in your career later down the line. I'm going to work for a company called Thrive Global, which is all about ending employee burnout and stress. And so it's really interesting because I wouldn't have gotten this job if I didn't talk to all of the people in my network and ask what's out there, who's hiring, what do you guys think, do you know this person? So don't give up. You're going to have bad interviewing experiences for sure. Again, I've been graduated for 8 years now, and I still experience a bad interview or two as I'm going. So don't give up and reach out to alumni. I get UMass students all the time reaching out to me on LinkedIn, and we're happy to hop on a Zoom and have a quick chat over coffee, give advice. Definitely use that connection because UMass is a good community.
Awesome. So I see Maggie has raised her hand. Maggie, feel free to unmute yourself. If you want to turn on your video, feel free as well. And definitely ask our panelists some questions.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So I'm a first year student here at UMass Amherst. I'm in the Eisenberg program. I'm going for marketing and film, so I'm double majoring. And as a first year student, I don't really have like a definite idea of like where I want to really go. But I just had like some questions about like what would you guys like advise for me to like focus on, like to prepare myself with like going through these 4 years, and like what I should focus on like balancing. I know you guys talked about how it was kind of a combination of like the school and like personal effort and like ambition that kind of got you there, but any specific things that you would like use as a good piece of advice?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. The good thing, or maybe it seems like a bad thing, but the good thing is what you think you want to do today is probably going to change by the time you're a senior. So I guess what I would say to you is to lean into things that you think you're interested in now, right? And you use your gut to kind of, whether it's joining classes that sound interesting or clubs, just try everything, right? And you're early on in your career, and your college career, which I'm jealous about because you're going to have a blast over the next 4 years. But just try as much as you're interested in right now, and you're going to start to shape the idea of what kind of career you want to have once you graduate.
Feel free. Yeah, I was going to ask if anybody else wanted to join in. Feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to echo what Kwabi said. It's enjoy it, be in the moment, do the things that you enjoy today, apply yourself, but don't panic, because it's easy to panic. I remember being, I started as a chem major, if that's any help. I was a chemistry major, and then I went undeclared for a little bit. And then I was like, oh God, I got to pick something, right? And this was sophomore year. So it's okay to kind of figure out what you need to do. I'd say really lean into things that you like, and then find that intersection of what do you like and what are you really good at? Like, what's your superpower, and start to find that out and lean into it, because that's the dream right there. A lot of people will say, like, for example, like designers and artists, if you do your job every day, it can be something that takes away from the joy when you do it as a hobby. But really the thing that's going to be fulfilling is if you get to go into work every day and you get to enjoy it and you're good at it and people will pay you for it. That's a really enjoyable intersection, at least speaking from personal experience. And then as you're discovering what you might like and seeing, hey, maybe this is the type of career I'd like, talk to those people that have the job that you think you are interested in. Read articles and books and listen to podcasts of that industry, and I think you can start to suss out what's interesting to you. But no pressure. You have so much time to figure it out, and don't panic. It's going to be fine.
Very cool. Great question, Maggie. Did anybody else have any questions? Want to raise your hand or put in the chat? Feel free to jump in.
Recording in progress.
Okay. If not, I will ask, how has COVID-19 affected your job experience? If we want to start with Veronica.
Yeah, sure. So we haven't gone in person back into the office since like March 2020. So it's really changed it a lot. I mean, I went from going out into the field to pretty much working at home most of the time and doing a lot of phone calls and Zoom interviews, which took away that personal aspect of meeting with people in person and having like those candid interactions that you wouldn't have otherwise. But yeah, it really changed. It took a lot of adjustment. And then after that, I was like, oh, I like working from home. But yeah, it's just been totally different. I mean, hopefully the pandemic will be over by the time you guys join the workforce. So I don't think that you'd have to really deal much with that. But I'm sure for people who are seniors, I guess hopefully my office is going back in person next year. So hopefully most of the jobs that you guys are applying for now have returned in person. And I really feel for you guys. This past 2 years must have been tough during internships and everything. But yeah, hopefully it gives you guys a different perspective coming into it, or maybe more excited to work in person.
Bobby, did you want to hop in on that, or? Yeah.
So I graduated from UMass in 2019, and I did a 2-year rotational program with NBC Universal. It was supposed to be 3 different locations working on 3 different projects with 3 different teams. I got my first rotation based in New Jersey. So I lived in New Jersey. And then I moved to Denver for the start of my second rotation, and then COVID hit. So the remainder of my program was working from home in that sort of environment. And it was tough because a lot of my job in the program dealt with being in control rooms and traveling. I worked with the local NBC Universal local division, where we have a ton of NBC stations across the country. So I would have been traveling extensively. So a lot of the travel that was supposed to occur in those first 2 years didn't. But the current role I landed in as a project manager in 30 Rock, I'm in person every day. So I got to go back sooner than a lot of our company did. So it worked out.
Yeah. And I worked for my company for about a year, and then COVID hit. And then I worked remotely, and my job, I'm never going to work from home. I hate working remotely. I have to be there. So as a product manager, I work with engineers and designers to basically build software. And so if I'm not there, sometimes, people will be like, oh, I'm so confused, but I don't know what to do. And they won't ask me proactively. Whereas if I'm physically there, it's like, hi, I'm right here. I can help unblock you. And so I was a big proponent of you have to be there. My job's entirely remote now. And this new job I'm starting is 100% remote. There's offices in San Francisco and New York. I'm right outside of Boston in Natick. And so I'm fully remote. So, big advice is if you do get a job that's remote, one thing that's a great thing to negotiate in your starting package is a work from home setup. I actually have a cousin who he just graduated from Hofstra. So he's 22 at this point. And he works from his laptop. He works from his laptop on his couch and doesn't have a monitor or a mouse or a chair or a desk. And he's a PR rep for I think HBO. And I was like, dude, you gotta get a desk. You're gonna hurt your back. So definitely invest in your work from home setup. Super, super important. And hopefully you can have your company help pay for that in your starting package.
Okay, cool. I guess a question I have that came up, Emily, you were talking about how students will connect with you on LinkedIn. What do you think are the right and wrong ways to try to connect with you and connect with alumni?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any really wrong ways, so that's good. But I would say the right way is just, hey, I see you went to UMass. I also went to UMass. I'm graduating next year or whatever it might be. I'm interested in this thing. Would you be up for having a chat over coffee, over Zoom sometime soon, whenever works for you, sort of thing? Maybe suggest some times, just because then it's easier to figure out a time. And also, obviously if they don't reply, I sometimes don't check my LinkedIn for a bit. That's fine. Obviously no pressure, but I would say just sending out that message and telling them what you're interested in, why you want to talk to them, advice that you're looking for, because even if they don't have the time, they might reply with something. Just don't be pushy. And yeah, I think LinkedIn is the right place for it too. If you happen to have the email address of the person, that's fine. But LinkedIn is generally that professional spot where you can reach out to anyone.
Cool. I think Ryan has received a question. So if Ryan, if you wanted to read it out.
Yeah, absolutely. This question comes from Prisha Mark, and they asked, do you have any tips or advice for securing an internship or job in media or communications field? If anyone wants to pick up on that one.
Yeah, I guess I could start. I was a big, I always leaned on my network, the organic network I had. So I would reach out to people, whether it's UMass alums or like from my high school, from my hometown, or maybe friends of friends, family friends. I always reached out and saw or was seeking opportunities that way. Because usually when it's within your organic network, the person is much more willing and excited to help you out. That's just one way. I'm sure Veronica and Emily have other ways, but that's what kind of helped me get my first internship in college.
Definitely. I would say, because I've gone through a few resumes and cover letters for internships at my old job. And what I've noticed is the ones that stuck out to me most are the ones that you can tell they tailored their resume and their their cover letter to the job that they're applying for. I think oftentimes people just use one resume or one cover letter to apply to every sort of job. And you can sort of tell, especially if someone writes to whom it may concern. I think, it can be tough getting that first your mentors that you have, professors at UMass, they can certainly be a resource for getting you an internship. Again, former alumni, also huge help in getting internships. And also I wanted to go back, if you're trying to reach out to people on LinkedIn, you could also use UMass Connect. I know that's like a really, yeah, giving the plug. It's like a newer resource, but I've had a few people reach out to me there, and it's been a great way to connect with people because you can find their information a lot easier.
I will also, sorry to cut you off, Emily, if you were going to say something. I will say you got to also look at your journey differently, right? So my junior year summer, going into my senior year, I really wanted to secure an internship at ESPN. I made it through to the final round and I didn't get the job and I was crushed because I thought like my media dreams were over. So then I took an internship with a bank in the business operations sector of the bank. And then when I was applying to jobs after grad school, NBC Universal really liked that I had business operations experience at the bank, which I was very surprised that kind of helped me out. So if you go for jobs that will help your overall skill set, it could still get you to where you want to go. So just kind of, like I said, like widen your view and how you're going about your job search.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, Claudia, because transferable skills, just write that down. Transferable skills, everything, even that you've done so far, projects that you've worked on in classes, part-time jobs that you had. I mean, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts in high school, and I definitely talked about that in my first internship interview. And it's all about, what is this job? What are they advertising that they're looking for? What are the skills that you have and the experience that you have in the past, even at jobs that might seem completely irrelevant, that can be transferred to sound relevant, right? I didn't have my first internship until I graduated. I graduated and I was a full-on graduate, and I went into a summer internship. The beauty of doing that was I was hireable right after my internship, and they luckily liked the work I did and they hired me full-time. And so it worked out, but just, if you don't get that internship, for example, right away, and you want to get it after you graduate, that's totally fine too.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for the advice, guys. I think Ryan has another question.
Yeah, this question comes from Madeline Andrews, and they kind of picked up on what Emily was talking about a little while ago, and is that was talking about starting packages. And the question they have is, what is negotiating like, and what advice would you have for first jobs?
Yeah, really, really good question. It's scary. Negotiating is still scary, and I'm still scared of it every single time. And I've had a few jobs since I graduated. The most important thing for you to do is make sure you do your research. There's so many resources now for how much you should be getting paid. Similar jobs in similar locations, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, these are all really good spots for you to figure out how much should this job be. And then also take into account other benefits that they're giving you, things like vacation, maybe a sign-on package for setting up a home office, equity in a company. So if you're going to work at a startup and they give you options, those things could be worth a lot of money someday. So that might be how they give it to you versus give it to you in salary. And just a big thing is, don't be afraid to ask for more. It's really tempting to have them offer you money, and especially with our first jobs, we're used to things like X dollars an hour, and so something like 40K coming straight out of school is going to be like, whoa, that's so much money. But if you're seeing on Glassdoor that things are being paid more money, then you should say, actually, I'm looking for closer to 40, 45, 48, right? And if they say, no, we can't do it, that's fine. You asked, and you can have that negotiation. But the rule of thumb is to always try to negotiate. That's what I've been told. It's hard every time. Every time I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. That money sounds good. I know with my internship, there was no negotiation. It was just, here's how much you're getting. And then once they were hiring me full time, I was able to negotiate my salary. So that's just one thing to consider too, is that they might not be open to negotiation, but it's always worth asking.
Kwabi, Veronica, do you guys have any experience with negotiating you'd want to share?
I think Emily, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say my first job out of school, I couldn't negotiate because they had a set rate. But I tried. I did try. So always try. And if no is the answer, then that's the answer. But at least I tried.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, Emily said it perfectly. I don't know how much more I can add on to that, but I will admit that I did not negotiate for my first job, and it has been kicking me in the butt ever since, because I feel like that is your starting negotiating rate is always going to be there. So if you start high, then it's only more beneficial for you. So yes, always negotiate.
Yeah, I do want to just say one thing on that though. One thing that you might be seeing in the news is there's a big resignation, the great resignation right now. A lot of people quitting their jobs, a lot of people job hopping. And the reason for that is your first job does set that first, salary band. But when you switch, you can jump salary bands pretty quickly. I will say from experience, if you go look at my LinkedIn, I've been at, I was at a job for 3 years, and then less than a year, 3 years, and now I'm going to another job. So you can see I've moved around quite a bit, and that has bumped my salary higher. That being said, some companies really value loyalty, and they will give you more money if you stay, and other benefits. My boyfriend works at a job that gives you a full month sabbatical every 3 years you're there. So that's something that's really cool as a perk. So just information, things to consider.
Kwabi, were you going to add on to that at all?
I was going to say, so I had received other job offers. And to Emily's point, there is market research to see how much you're worth and how much you should be making. So don't be afraid to ask for maybe more than what you think you're worth, because they might come back with a counteroffer that's lower than what you asked for. So if you can get ahead of that, right? And sometimes they'll surprise you and say yes and give you more than you were expecting to get. So, I mean, you always have to try. Even if it's a scary and awkward thing to do, just try, and you never know what's going to happen.
Awesome. Some great, solid advice. Everyone feel free to keep putting in questions, raise your hands. You always have that option as well. If you wanted to ask our panelists directly, Ryan has another question to ask.
Yeah, this question's from Mia, and they ask, I know internships at companies like NBC are very competitive. What do you think helped you stand out and secure your position?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess the first thing is I always believed that I could work at any company that I wanted to, right? So I think if you go into your interviews and you pursue jobs and believing that anything is attainable, that'll help your confidence as you move forward. So I guess number one is having the confidence and feeling like you deserve and you belong in those competitive roles. And then two, in the interviews, I always used every part of myself, every part of my experiences to really create a robust candidate, because we all are dynamic in our own ways. So it's just bringing all those great things of value together and really showing whoever is on the other side of that interview who you are, as well as passion, right? NBC Universal was my dream, still is my dream company. So I was really eager and excited and passionate about the company, and I showed that in my interviews with research and just a lot of passion. So again, there's also what people don't tell you is it's going to come down to luck, right? There's going to be a little bit of luck involved. Right place, right time, right opportunity. But if you put yourself in a position to get lucky and you're prepared, sky's the limit.
Awesome. Veronica, I know you also work at CNN. Those applications, internships must be competitive as well.
They are. Yeah, I would say, yeah, a lot of research, a lot of preparation, knowing as much as you can about the company, the team that you want to work for, going in ahead of time, just to have that base knowledge, I think really impresses the hiring manager, because they know, okay, this person cares about this job. They researched. They clearly want this job more than some of the other applicants. So yeah, I would just think, I mean, again, yeah, as Kwame was saying, it's luck. Sometimes it's timing. If you get rejected from an internship, apply again. Do not take yourself out of the counting just because you didn't get that initial internship. Or even if you maybe didn't have an interview process that went so well, again, apply, maybe just a different department, different job. Or I mean, I would even recommend applying for that same job again, because another year under your belt with more experience, you can sort of market yourself differently. You can go about the application process differently. But yeah, it can be hard to stand out, especially when there's so many applicants. But again, what I was saying before is like tailoring your cover letter and your resume, reaching out to your network. You just have to really put yourself out there sometimes.
The only other thing I'd add, I think those are fantastic points. The only other thing I'd add is if you don't get a job in the exact field that you want, or the company that you're dying to work for, or even in the exact role that you're looking for, coming back to those transferable skills as you gain experience through the jobs that you do get, right? So I've worked at startups in all sorts of industries, search and video, human resources and hiring and coaching, real estate, agriculture. I mean, I've run the gambit. And so now with that experience, I'm able to hone in on exactly what I want to look at and what I want to work on. And so sometimes it's just about getting some of those years under your belt. So you should still enjoy what you do. You should still work with people that you really like working with. That's huge, right? You might interview at one company and love who you talk to during the interview. And it might be like a bank, for example. And it's like, okay, it's good people that I enjoy working with. And then you might go interview for your dream company, which I just interviewed with, I don't know if you guys know Goldbelly. It's a good company, good product, but I didn't vibe with the interviewers. I probably shouldn't trash them or anything like that. They're good people. It's just we didn't vibe, right? And I was like, oh no, I was so disappointed because I really wanted to work for that company. But sometimes it comes down to people. So get those years under your belt, and it's okay not to work for your dream job right away.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a company and it's a job, and you can find the passion and love. There's millions of companies out there. And I was also realistic with that as well going into my interviews. I was open to many different industries and roles. So again, I guess the theme of all my answers is don't have tunnel vision when you're going into these things and keep an open mind.
Awesome. Great answers. One question I had actually is, and I don't know how easy this is to answer, but what do you think is the biggest misconception one of the biggest misconceptions about working in your field right now, or maybe something that you held when you were an undergrad about working within media and communications? I know it's a tough question, so if anybody wanted to pop on and start us off, feel free.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Corey.
I think you could work at a company like NBC Universal and have this idea of it on the other side, and you get in and you could still feel worlds away from where you want it to be. Right. Like I said, we have business functions, and I hear people in HR or finance saying, I really wish I was in production, and they work at NBC Universal and they feel just as far away as somebody on the outside of NBC Universal. So it comes down to what you're looking for within the company as well as the company itself.
Yeah, I would say the biggest misconception I had going into the working world is that people moved as fast and worked as hard as students do. Quite frankly, I mean, just the pressure on y'all as students is crazy. And as soon as you hit the working world, I've worked at companies that are nuts, right? It's working long hours and it's hardworking for sure, but you hit a little bit of a speed stop. It slows you down going into the real world and working with people who've been in the workforce, especially for a little bit. So I say the fact that you come out so hungry and excited and you work really hard, that's great. And it gets you really far, really fast, very quickly. But don't burn yourself out because it's really, really easy to do that, especially if you try to keep that same momentum you did as a student. So just be wary of that. I just saw this tweet about this, about how professors will say, there's no extensions in the real world. There's no, time extensions. There's so many extensions. No one hits their deadlines. We try, and you should, and it will be only good for you exceed expectations to your manager and stuff like that. But no, it's human out there too. So those professors are not correct.
That's very true and funny, but very true.
Yeah, Veronica, did you have anything to add about that? One of the biggest misconceptions about working in your industry?
I guess I was just scared that it was going to be really cutthroat. And I mean, there are people out there that are, a little competitive more so than others. But for the most part, I think, the media and comms industry is no different than any other. You're going to have people that are team players that are supportive and nurturing, and you're going to have managers that look out for you. I think the whole workforce dynamic is changing entirely, and that people are prioritizing, mental health, taking care of yourself if work is getting too stressful. I thought it was always going to be this go mentality until you burn out. But now it seems like that's changing for the better. So the environment of news and media seems to be changing for the overall betterment of keeping people around in healthy environments.
Awesome. Great answers, guys. And again, audience, feel free to send in any questions, or, like Ryan just put in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand as well. But another question I have for you guys is, what was the hardest obstacle you faced in achieving your current job position? Or maybe in general, but yeah, and that's also a tough one. So feel free to pop in whenever you have an answer.
So achieving the position, that is hard to answer, but I'd say within the position, what's challenging is my age. So I'm 25 years old, and I know to some students that might seem like I'm 50 years old, but in the real world, it's actually very, very, very young. And as a project manager, I need to be able to influence people that have been doing their job for many years, have way more experience than me, way more knowledge than me. So age is definitely a huge obstacle, but I don't have specific advice on how to influence those, because it's going to be specific to the job you're doing, but it's definitely possible to influence at any age if you go about it. It's so hard for me to really explain this, but age is definitely a huge obstacle that I'm dealing with daily.
Yeah, similar to age. Definitely being a woman in the workforce, especially in tech. It's a very male dominated industry. And I get frequently the really the feedback that I can be too aggressive, and then the feedback that I need to be more aggressive, right? There's never a sweet spot as a woman. And so it's hard to sort of balance that and have those conversations. But I would actually say similar to Kwabi, like age up to a certain point was really hard. Being in product, very similar to project management, you need to influence. And I would say like the best way to combat that is to find allies, and make connections and form those relationships with the people you need to, those working relationships, because then people can vouch for you, and when one person says like, oh yeah, they're legit, like listen to them, they need this, like make sure you get back to them, then more people follow. And so that's definitely one way of working at it.
Really good answer. I couldn't articulate that, but that's very true.
And I don't know if you guys experience this, but I feel like it's been talked about in my workplace a lot, but imposter syndrome, like you sort of feel like, oh, like I'm not supposed to be here. Like, how did I get here? I do think a lot of like younger people tend to experience that too, because you're joining the real world, you're given real responsibilities. It could be intimidating being around people who've done this for years, who feel like they know everything. But on the flip side, like you are, as like a young person in an office, you're such an asset to these people, because you're bringing a whole set of skills that you have a different way of looking at things, different perspectives. But yeah, I mean, I know that age is sometimes like, I don't know, it's not nothing to knock being a young person in an environment. You should see yourself as an asset to the team.
Very cool. Okay. Awesome. Another question we got actually during signups. So this is a student question as well. What's the best way to get started in the media and communication field as a student? Emily, did you want to start us off here?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're all extremely online at this point. And for better or for worse, getting started looks as simple as, building up your own personal brand, which is such like a cringy thing to say, but it's very true. Your online presence, Twitter, Instagram. I don't really use Facebook anymore. I don't think kids are using Facebook anymore either, but I don't know. But really building that up and staying plugged into what you're interested in and who are thought leaders in your industry is super, super important. Podcasts is a good way of doing that as well. Networking events, things like this, hearing from alumni, all of that stuff is great, but also don't obsess over it. So, stay plugged in, do your research. I definitely say look at job listings all the time, even job listings that are way above your current experience. It can't hurt to look at, hey, where do I want to be in 5 years? What job do I want to be applying for in 5 years? And starting to get plugged into that. But otherwise, enjoy where you are now, because it goes by fast, and obsessing about the future is not a good thing either.
I love that you keep saying podcasts. I wish podcasts were bigger when I was a student, because I had a lot more time then, and I would listen to, there's a podcast for everything, but that's just so true. Podcasts definitely can help you gain a deeper understanding on almost anything. Also, and I keep saying join clubs and try to get internships, but when you're in these experiences, make sure you're taking notes on what you don't enjoy and what you can't see yourself doing. That internships are really valuable to me, because I was able to figure out quickly what I didn't like. As much as people use internships as ways to figure out what they like doing, what they want to do, they're just as important the other way. So just take notes on your whole experience.
I would also add to that and just say, if you can't secure an internship, well, first of all, don't beat yourself up over that, but see if you can maybe shadow somebody for a day. Some companies will allow you to do that. It could be really beneficial to just follow somebody and see if you like what they do on their day-to-day, get a sense of the environment, what their office experience is like. Also, if you have the opportunity, I'd highly recommend studying abroad. It could give you an entirely different perspective, and also a life experience bonus. And if you could get an internship while you're studying abroad, that's even more effective, because then you can put that on your resume.
Awesome. Great. So Ryan, I believe we have another question in the chat.
Yeah, this question comes from Sam, and they were wondering if there's a place for people in communications and media fields who aren't necessarily career driven, talking about don't want to achieve greatness or success, but just want an interesting job in this industry.
So what's the question exactly?
Is there a place for people in the communication and media fields where they aren't necessarily career driven, but just want to have a job in which they find interesting and fulfilling?
I guess it's more how many people are necessarily, racing to the top of their field versus people who are just trying to find something they enjoy.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have an immediate answer.
Yeah, I actually do. I do. So in tech, there's a lot of those people. And some of them are in the communications and media side, like marketing side. I will say what's interesting is if you're very good at your job and you enjoy it and you find it interesting, and you're not ambitious, sometimes that actually attracts promotions because you're not like annoying your manager about hey, when am I getting promoted? Can I get more money? And they're and you're reliable and people like you, and that's sometimes a very good thing. But I say there's a place for everyone who's not super ambitious and doesn't want to climb the career ladder. There is no shame in wanting to come in, do your job, do a good job, get paid, go home and have a fulfilling, full life with family and friends and dogs and I guess cats if you're into that. But there's no shame in that at all. And sure, media and communications, I would say in tech, it's pretty grueling. And so you do have to love what you do. I can't speak to more of the media industry, but.
Yeah. I guess when you put it that way, there's a lot, I would say more than half of the people at my company enjoy not climbing the corporate ladder and just enjoy doing their job. There's been people that have been in their job for 20, 25 years. Yeah. And to Emily's point, there's no race that you don't have to go in extremely ambitious, and also ambition looks different, right? Maybe what you find that you want to be ambitious with is having a really good work-life balance, and how do you get to that place, and how do you, or ambitious about having a certain proficiency in your one job. So yeah, it's a really interesting question, Sam. I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say I don't think of myself as like a super competitive person. So, I mean, I love what I do, and I'm not looking to climb the career corporate ladder or anything like that. But yeah, I think if you just have like the passion for what you do, and someone recognizes that in you and that you want to work as hard as you can on this, I mean, it's really up to you of how much you want to put into the job. But yeah, work-life balance, I mean, just speaking from experience, I think that is priority over anything. You have to really put yourself first sometimes. Otherwise you just burn out. And I think the people that, are highly ambitious, it's a choice of theirs to make that. But yeah, I would notice that most of those people that pursue that can sometimes be burnt out, and you find them leaving the industry like relatively soon after. So it's to each their own.
Very cool. Great question, Sam. Appreciate that. Another question we got during registration for the event is this the career path the career path you chose? Is this the one you always wanted to do? Is this what you saw yourself doing after college? I think we'll start off with Kwabi.
Yeah, I'm afraid to answer this question because the answer is yes, but that doesn't mean that that's how everyone should be and that's how your life's going to go. But yes, I've always wanted to work at NBC Universal in a corporate role, not within the production, operational role. So I did try to take on experiences while at UMass to give myself a shot. But that doesn't mean that everyone should be that way. Probably 95% of the people I know who are in jobs today don't know what they want to do when they grow up. So this is the one I don't want you to take my advice on.
I guess one of the big things, Kwabi, though, is that you're the most recent graduate here. So maybe that makes a lot of sense as well. But how about you, Veronica? Is this where you imagined, those years when you graduated?
So I might be the exception out of the three of us, because I knew exactly what I wanted to go to college to do. I was applying to colleges with the intent of going into journalism. So I don't know how much help I can be on this, but I will say I have met numerous amount of people who do not have a journalism degree and who work in journalism now. It can also be a way to set yourself apart from other people. A lot of people have journalism degrees, and you could come in with a entire major, different background, different pathway of getting to where you are. And sometimes hiring managers will see that, and it can give you a leg up, because it can also be a different type of expertise that you bring to the job. You have a different way of thinking about things. So I wouldn't be discouraged if you graduate with a degree and you see a job that you're really interested in, or you're afraid to go for it because you don't have that degree that they're looking for. Again, it can come down to connections and just showing that you're really passionate and enthusiastic about the job and the company. That could set you apart and ultimately get you the gig.
Yeah, don't worry. I did not expect to be where I am today. Yeah, so again, I went into school as a chemistry major, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I was in a lab all the time. I was like, this is miserable. I mean, props to people who really like chemistry. That's awesome and important. But I was like, I can't do this. And then I loved writing. And so I was like, oh, an English major though? What about money and career? And I don't want to be a teacher, right? Like, so I had the whole existential crisis. And finding tech and finding technical writing, and applying my communication skills to help at companies like that, was unexpected. I didn't know what a product manager was. I didn't know that there was a whole field for user experience design, and obviously, like, you hear web design, but there's so many people who help those web designers and programmers to like make software. There is a whole team. It's not just the people writing the code, although writing code is also awesome. So there's a ton of stuff out there. You might end up at a company doing the thing that you thought you were going to do, but the company is for like a product that you completely didn't expect to work for, or vice versa. Like for NBC, for example, you could be in an operations role and not actually work on production, and that's awesome too. And so, yeah, life will take you where it takes you. And as long as you're, weighing your choices along the way and working hard, but not too hard, balancing that, I think it's important to give thought to it, but not obsess over it, because worrying about it isn't gonna change anything. So.
Okay, awesome. So we have one last question, and I guess this might be directed more towards Veronica, what she was saying about people working without journalism degrees. I guess do most of your co-workers still have a degree, and is it in a field related to journalism or something different?
So you raise a really good point, because it is tough to get ahead without a degree of some college degree. I would love to see that change. I think sometimes it should speak more so about experience in the person's abilities rather than whether a person has a degree from a school, but that's a conversation for another time. But I would say that most people I've met have a bachelor's degree, or I've seen people with math majors, science backgrounds. Some people take the law degree and take that path to getting into journalism. But there is the rare exception of someone who just had internships, who left college and started working. If you decide not to pursue getting a career, degree, sometimes people have luck in just going full force into pursuing their career. But unfortunately, the way of the world is that most people have to have a degree to get these jobs, but it is a rare exception. So
I will say for NBC Universal, the company culture, they talk about being a meritocracy. So if you come in and you do the job really well and you show expertise in that job, you have a shot of being promoted, whether you come from a very elite school like the University of Massachusetts or you don't have a degree at all. I know a ton of people in management that don't have degrees. So, I mean, it varies company to company. And another thing I didn't say is the reason I got to a company like NBC Universal is because I come from a great school like UMass Amherst. So I think we should all take pride in the school we go to and the reputation our school has out there. It gives you a shot at any company you want. So that's something I omitted from all my answers, but definitely being a UMass grad has helped me advance my career in many ways.
Love the UMass spirit. Appreciate that, Kwabi. All right, and so our very last question for today is, what advice would you have to current UMass students looking for a job? Emily, if you wanted to start us off.
Yeah, current UMass students looking for a job. Don't worry if you apply to a lot. That's okay. That's good, actually. There's going to be a little bit of a moment when you customize that first resume and cover letter and you send it off and you're like, whew, all right, I got it. Let's go. But no, fire off a million, right? So again, I just went through the job hunt experience myself. I started applying for jobs in August. And I was on a plane ride back and I applied probably to like 8 to 10 jobs, kicked off a whole process with a bunch of those people. It was a lot of back and forth. I didn't hear from a lot of them, or I got automatic rejections from a lot of them. I started conversations with a lot of them. It's very exhausting. It takes a lot of your time. But it's your career. It's your job. It's your income. It's what's going to fuel all the things that you want to do outside of work, right? And the things you want to do there. So just keep going, and all the things that we've said so far, right? Reach out to alumni, mutual connections, connect with all of us. And if we have mutual connections at companies that you're interested in, we can see if we know them enough to possibly intro you, things like that. Yeah, good luck. Best of luck.
Veronica, did you want to hop in? What advice you'd give to current UMass students searching for a job?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Emily, you just said it all. I mean, great advice. I guess I would say, yeah, check LinkedIn, check those job boards. Sometimes, so this has worked for me in the past, and I don't know if it's necessarily the route for everyone, but if you're able to join an organization of some sort, I'm part of AAJA, which is the Asian American Journalists Association. They have a student discount. So a lot of organizations with different industries that you want to get into might have similar things. So that might be the best way to sort of network with people. That could be another avenue to pursue. Yeah, if you can get the student discount to join and become a member and start reaching out to people that way. I know that they'll post internally some job opportunities. So that could be another way. Also Twitter sometimes, or I've heard of people going about TikTok sometimes getting job opportunities or like reaching out to recruiters. So yeah, try to pursue some really like unorthodox ways of getting your application out there, I guess.
Kwabi, did you want to wrap us up with advice for UMass students looking for a job?
Yeah, they both gave really good tactical advice, but I would say, remember, at the end of the day, you are human. And I spoke earlier about us all being dynamic in some ways. So bring your whole experience, your whole self into the search and show the other person on the other side of that interview who you are. I gave the example of the business operations thing helping me out with the media job, but I know a lot of people would like to bring in, like I said, class, like coursework, clubs, experiences. I actually knew the mascot, the guy that was the mascot on campus, and he used that in his interviews, and people loved it. So just bring your whole self and your whole experience at UMass and maybe prior to UMass to your interview and job search.
All right, thank you so much. So with that, thank you to all our panelists for joining us here tonight. It was absolutely incredible being able to hear your responses and share your advice to our students. And students, thanks so much for attending, asking your questions as well. It's what made this night incredible and interactive as well. I do want to mention that top link right there, Connect UMass Alumni. Veronica mentioned it earlier. It's basically our LinkedIn, but just for UMass students and alumni. And so you can get some direct access. We actually have apparently better stats than response from LinkedIn. So if you try messaging somebody on our Connect UMass platform, there's actually a 60 to 80% chance somebody responds compared to a much lower percentage on LinkedIn. So please join us on that platform. Additionally, join us on Handshake for additional events. That's probably how most of you have heard of us. And additionally, check out our UMass Alumni for more events in the future. We'll be holding another Sharing Alumni Advice Wednesdays in November. It'll be more headed towards computer science and information technology. So definitely join us there. But on the next slide, I think we'll have some of our social media links. And that will be that. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. And we hope you all have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.